Good to see if I can get it up to full throttle as well as full rev. Holy shit. Holy f. That was quick. We're doing 100. That was 100. I don't know how quick that was, but 0 to 60 was 5 seconds. Holy shit. Well, folks, you've been asking for over 2 years to have the W140 Mercedes S-Class featured, and finally, we drove 800 kilometers to be able to show you this one. Our spotlight today is on this 1997 Mercedes-Benz S600. This is the V12 flagship from Mercedes-Benz, and as fully loaded as you can get, considering so many options can be put into a car like this. We're going to show you all the features and everything else you need to know if you're in the market for the best or nothing. Now, anytime that we're featuring a full-size flagship like this, there's so many features to go over, so I do apologize if I miss anything. But basically, it is what you would expect on a fully loaded 90s S-Class. You do have xenon headlights up front with the little headlight wipers, which are super cool. You have parking sensors all around, and something that's very interesting, if we take a look back, I know we're not comparing it directly with the 750 IL that we did before, but the parking sensors are located on the side as well. So like a lot of the modern cars we see today where they put the sensors on the side, Mercedes was doing that 20 years ago. Moving around, you do have power folding mirrors, and you do have dual pane laminated glass, which adds extra insulation, so it's a little bit quieter as you're driving along. Also, all 4 doors, including the trunk, are soft vacuum closed, so you just give it a little tap and they'll close without any force required whatsoever. Now, this car also has or at least it originally came with the Harman Kardon GPS audio system. So there's a little puck on the trunk here, but it was removed from the dealership that this car was got from. Other than that, the trunk is pretty straightforward. Again, it'll open up fully automatically for you there. And there's a dust guard at the back here. So when you pull the trunk down, there's a little lip that comes out. It's always protected from the outside elements. And as you push it, it hides away to keep the car and yourself clean. You know, obviously, if you're driving around in the mud, you're going to be dirty. You want to keep your hands clean. It's just something that they kind of thought of to make this really worth the price that it was when it was new. You have parking sensors along the back here, and really just an upgraded AMG exhaust with just sort of a blacked out rear end here. The center along the bottom would have been either orange or white, depending on the facelift year, and the owner here has blacked it out, make it look a little bit nicer, because it does date that car if it's got the orange one on it. The white one even as well, I think it kind of dates it a little bit, so blacking it out looks quite nice. So the interior here, obviously we're not comparing it directly with the 7 Series V12 that we did, but it is really hard not to, considering we did it not too long ago. But there are a lot of similarities and a lot of differences, and it actually is a lot more similar to the W126 S-Class that we featured twice now. They really do keep kind of the same sort of look and feel. The interior here is very similar to other 90s Mercedes models that we featured. But what's interesting here, the dual zone automatic climate control, it is, dual zone for your heat, temperature, as well as direction, but the fan speed is unified between the 2 front occupants here, so that is different. The stereo system here has been replaced with an aftermarket one. It's not something that the owner did. You do have heated front seats, power windows all around, park distance control. You do have the switch for the rear sunshade, and your headrests as well. You can flip the headrests down from that. So there's a lot going on here. It's got some leather wrapped around here, very soft. Everything here is quite soft and actually firm. It's got a good feel to it. Leather dashboard as well. Mercedes always has like a sort of dual setup here for their glove box. So you've got a little one up top and then the regular one beside the passenger here. But I really do feel that there's a lot of space. It feels more like a cockpit of a plane than it does of anything else, because everything really is wide. It's a big car, sits wide. The steering wheel, it's got a good firm to it. I like the wood. I know a lot of people think it's grandpa, but I like that. And everything is really laid out very well. You have just good visibility and good space all the way around. And I think that the seats are also probably more comfortable than we do find in the 7 Series. Again, much like the W126 S-Class that we did earlier, they feel like the updated one. It's almost like they took the same seats off the facelift W126 and put them onto here, but that's not a bad thing. They are quite comfortable, and you do have tons of options. There's like lumbar support for the back, and then there's the inflatable sections for 3 parts along the bottom and on the side of your seat. So there's a lot of option, a lot of space, a lot of controls to be able to do everything that you want to get the perfect comfort level of your bottom and your back, and that's the whole point of the S-Class. Now, if you want to talk about what the S-Class is about, it is the back seat, and why I say that this is probably the nicest one that we're ever going to be able to feature is this is set up as a 4-passenger vehicle, not a 5. There is no seat here in the center. Your armrest is a fixed, sunshade opener and closer. All the lumbar support options for your seat here, as well as a little cup holder storage area underneath. It's all wood, looks very nice. And then your armrest folds flat. You can put, I don't know what kind of cup holders these are. As soon as you go around a corner, those are going to fly out. You have a little storage area there. And again, comfort is very nice here. Now, unlike we see in other cars, you do have like a little map light here built into the headliner, something that you really have to get option on the L7 for the 7 Series. Little vanity mirrors here to make sure you're looking good. And overall, I mean, everything is quite soft to the touch. You do have dome lights here with your park sensor indicators back there, so if the driver is backing up, they'll be looking back here to see how close they are to an object. But overall, I mean, you've got your sunshades on the side. You've got controls here for your heat, so you can change for hot or cold for either side. It's not digital, but again, we don't see that often in this segment at this price point for the year. But overall, I mean, you'd be very comfortable sitting back here if you were somebody who had $100,000 back in 1997 and you wanted to be driven around in style, because overall, I mean, you've got a good amount of space back here. You have a little bit of wood down here. Nothing's leather though, but the door cards are kind of like a plastic with some leather and lots of wood too. Plus your seat controls. The whole point is to be able to relax so you can push it back. Actually, it's really nice. You could almost fall asleep back here. So you do have a lot of seat controls with this, as well as they're kind of like the footrests on the 7 Series, but they do blow air. So there's a lot of airflow that you can get coming into the back seat here. But this is what the whole point of the car is, to sit back here, and especially with this layout, it's for you to be driven. Maybe you've got a business partner, you're doing a big deal, and you need somebody to be sitting back there, have some space between you that you can put maybe your fax machine, which would have been the go-to accessory back in 97. But I think that you and I both want to see what V12 engine like this sounds like on the road, and especially with the modified exhaust on the back, I think it's going to sound quite nice. So let's jump back into the front and take this S-Class for a drive. You can probably hear the exhaust on this. It is modified. There really is no muffler on the back of it, so it's a little louder than you might normally find. Holy! Sounds pretty good. So it's a little bit more intense than you would normally find on this car, but just bear with us as we take this on a nice drive here. Now, the whole point of the S-Class is always more luxury, more comfort than you could ever imagine in another vehicle, and especially going with the S600, having that V12 engine really is the sort of the final form of having tons of money. That's the car that you would buy. So far, the drive is really smooth. I mean, we talked about the seat comfort when we were sitting in it earlier, but I mean, the whole point of this really is absolute comfort. And again, it really is similar to the W124 E-Class that we did, the two of them actually a little while ago, as well as the, obviously the predecessor to this, the W126 S560 or 560 SEL that we did a little earlier on. A lot of it really is shared. You can see that this is more of an evolution cycle than a revolution cycle. Very similar, but I find there's more room in here. There's way more space to be able to sit as you're cruising along. And something like this, it's not all about power, much like the 750 IL that we did. It was not a fast car. It really wasn't a fast car by 1990 standards. It's certainly not a fast car by today's standards. And same thing with this. This isn't meant to be a performance car. It's meant to be very smooth and normally quiet. But in this case, it's got a little bit more grunt than you'd normally expect. But it is about comfort and ride handling. And I have to say, it really just drives over this really smooth road quite well. And even some of the bumps, it really just eats them up. And that's the whole point of this, is just to have an unbelievably smooth ride, not only from a suspension perspective, but that engine. The whole point is for it to be smooth. And we're just kind of gliding along here. It really feels like we're on a cloud as you're driving down the street. It's got a just unbelievable ride to it, something that you won't expect to find from really any other manufacturer other than Mercedes-Benz, because it's what we always say when it comes to these cars. We found that even with the 88 560 SEL, is it's just so smooth. You just can't understand until you actually drive the car really how it feels. Holy! There's also tons information going on in the cluster here for the driver. You've got your gas gauge, you've got your MPG. This is actually an American vehicle that was imported, so you've got your MPG, which currently we're averaging 0, and you've got your coolant temperature, your oil pressure, your speed, tachometer, and a clock. So everything looks really elegant, really straightforward, very consistent with Mercedes design language from the time. But I really do like the look of it. I mean, to me personally, if you compare this with the 7 Series, the 7 Series feels a little bit more modern, even though they came out around the same time. But there really is more of an understated luxury when it comes to something like this. You know, people are going to notice it if they know what they're looking for. Maybe it doesn't have as much screen time as something like the 7 Series in terms of what Hollywood was producing. But overall, I mean, you know that this means money, and especially with that sound too. Oh my God! Holy, that's loud. I'm sure that the Cadillac CT6 behind us, which is not the Cadillac CT6 that I'm driving, but it's a different Cadillac CT6. There you go. He knows. He's got a. Oh, it's an XTS. Sorry, it's garbage. But we'll give him a little rip. There you go. See, he knows what it's all about. It's like the ultimate sleeper, because I mean, obviously it's an S600, so it's already, if you know what you're looking for. But I don't think anybody on earth is expecting this car to sound that way when you're driving down the street, because I know same thing with Audi, BMW, Mercedes. They always make these cars sound super quiet because it's not about sound. You want to be in the back seat enjoying the drive, not hearing it. But when you do something like this, basically just straight pipes all the way through. It wakes people up. It's what, noon almost? So if anybody's sleeping in, here's your wake up call, Toronto. Wake up. Time to get going, get busy. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a big bump. But still, it was a big bump. The car felt it. I didn't. It's like the seat is almost isolated from the rest of the vehicle, that's nice. That's, again, the whole point. Smooth. Okay, here we go. And we also lost a little traction there too, so. Wow. Yeah, we're at 100. We're at 100 already. That's crazy. Like, this is a V12, and I know today's standards V12s are so fast, but this is a 97 V12 when they weren't making them go fast. But holy shit. And the sound too. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm sure that whoever is working here today is probably thinking, what the hell is going on outside? Like, is that a jet fighter? Is there like a Pagani outside? Some sort of Lamborghini? No, sir. It's an S-Class.
First off, the S600 had low production numbers than the rest of the S-Class lineup sold here in Canada. According to a post on mbworld.org, only 348 S600 models were sold in 1997 in North America, with less than 200 for the 98 and 99 carryover years. For the 1995 model year, the W140 received a facelift with updated exterior design elements such as updated bumpers and side cladding, and interior changes with the door cards and a digital trip computer. Another smaller facelift came for the 1997 models, which this is part of, including monotone paint, xenon headlights, and clear taillights at the back of the car. For 1998, the W220 was launched in Europe, but here in Canada and the US, we still had to live with the W140, which ended up being leftover stock from Europe shipped over here. When it comes to common problems, you're looking at a full-size luxury flagship that's between 18 and 25 years old, so finding a mechanically perfect example won't be easy. Realistically, you will want to look for a car that has miles on it, which usually means the wear and tear items have been replaced and serviced. Much like other Mercedes models from this era, pre-95 W140s would have been sold with a biodegradable wiring harness and should be replaced if it hasn't been done so already. Also, the W140 enthusiasts seem to prefer the 96 S600s and newer, since they used a better 5-speed automatic transmission over the 4-speed found on earlier models. The 4-speed had some issues, mostly with the reverse gear being the first thing to stop working. Electrical gremlins might also pop up, and it's important to note that the S600 only has one battery, unlike the two found in the E38 BMW 750iL. We had left the accessory power on for about 15 minutes while filming this car, and in that time the battery had drained enough to prevent the engine from turning over. So keep that in mind if you plan on running the electronics without the engine on. Aside from that, you'll want to set aside a few $1,000s a year minimum for general maintenance and upkeep. It seems like the W140 is a relatively reliable model, even with the V12 engine. Cost of maintenance is always going to be higher with a car like this, but they do seem to be easy to work on yourself if you're up for it. Resource forums like mbworld.org are great places to start if you're thinking you want to get into a W140. They have an active enthusiast community with years worth of information available to users. I highly recommend checking them out for any Mercedes you plan on owning. As we wrap up, I want to give a special thanks to Terry, the owner of this S600 and Enthusiast Auto Sales in Toronto, for letting us film this car. If you've been following us for a while, you'll know that the W140 has been our white whale, the car we just haven't been able to track down despite all our efforts, so you can check out his website in the description below. And I want to thank you for watching this episode of Test Drive Spotlight on the 1997 Mercedes-Benz S600. This was an incredible car to film, and one that I'm glad we finally had the chance to drive. While a couple hours isn't enough time with a car like this, it does give us a better understanding of this generation Mercedes S-Class, and has been a great opportunity for us to see what the competition was like for our E38 BMW 7 Series. As always, your support helps make this show possible, and your interest in these cars is why we made the 2,000-kilometer round trip to Toronto to film this car. We hope this renews the interest in our community for the older luxury cars we started filming with Test Drive over 2 years ago, and that we can continue to find local enthusiasts who want to participate in our growing automotive community. Please consider sharing this video on sites like Reddit or Facebook, and within car communities that appreciate classic cars, such as this S600. Until next time, take care.